Hi, welcome back to another Metabolic Monday. Almost said Manic Monday there. And we've got the usual team and a special guest tonight, the fantastic Carnivore Muscle. Good evening, Jonathan. So
how's it going, Carl?
yeah, very good. So basically, I'm going to be really cheeky here for the people watching. I'm just going to do a shameless plug. So if anyone's interested to come to any of the meetups, they can freeze frame the picture and use the QR codes to get some tickets. So that's my terrible salesmanship there. So we'll just go into the areas we're going to be talking about tonight. So we'll shortly be doing introductions and a little bit about your journey. Obviously, then we're going to talk about, because obviously with Jonathan on there with his expertise, building muscles and improving metabolic health. Want to have a discussion about supplements and obviously fasting, if it's good or bad, basically. But we are open to any questions from anyone viewing tonight. So feel free to put your questions in. To make it easier for me, just put QQ or QQQ on your question so I know what is a question and not just a statement or conversation between others. Right, so let's get started then. So special guest first. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a brief of your story?
Sure, thanks for having me on. So I'm Jonathan. My YouTube channel is Carnivore Muscle, and you'll also find me on Instagram as well. Just a quick mention to point to what Carl said about the shameless plug. I have actually linked the ticket sales link on my description on my channel. So if you're wondering about more information about it and where to buy it and all that sort of stuff, head there. So I'm a young man from England, South. I'm living in a sunny seaside town of Christchurch in Dorset, and I'm an autistic individual. I'm also a national level competitive bodybuilder. I live with a condition called CRPS type 2, which is, unfortunately, depends how you look at it, the most painful condition known to man. But my aim for the talks in the future is to inspire people, motivate people, bring people a different perspective on things, a different idea of things. And I've been following a carnivore diet for 6.5 years. That was within a 2-month span of managing a vegan health food shop. So it's actually a different way of eating that drew me here. Most of my mentorship, my teachings, what I've learned from others has come primarily from the likes of Professor Bart Kay and Harry Sopanos from the down under sort of region of the earth. Other than that, that's largely it. And I'm going into a lot more detail, but we'll get into any sort of relevant points in the questions we come across today. So brilliant. Who's next?
Okay, carrying around clockwise. Benjamin, would you like to do a brief introduction?
Yeah, my name is Benjamin Smith, and I am an author, a health coach, and I created something called the Ultimate Health Model, which is a blueprint that basically describes the progression of all chronic diseases. There's a green side and a red side. You do the green side the best you can and follow those factors. You don't do the red side the best you can, and then you live your life. I really simplified it down. It took me 10 years to figure all this out, but that's what I did. Also, I created something called Cell City, and Lydia knows all about that. So, Lydia, when it's your turn, you can say how much you love it because it really helps us out. But I created something called Cell City. How did I do this? Well, I knew the mitochondria were power plants. And so I thought, okay, if they're power plants, then maybe cholesterol is something else associated with a city. And so I just kept digging deeper and deeper and going down more rabbit holes and expand this analogy a million times over. And I created Cell City, a visual language of the body and a way to explain health. The new way to explain health. That's our tagline, Lydia. The new way to explain health. And I wrote an audiobook, an award-winning audio. I've done a lot of things, but we can go into those a little bit later.
Good. Al, would you like to give us a quick intro?
Yeah, good evening, folks. My name's Al. I am up in Scotland and I work in the NHS as an advanced practitioner. So come at it from a slightly different angle on occasions. I work in out of hours and sort of go out to patients' houses and see them in the local surgery, depending on their need. So dealing with urgent care and primary care sort of issues, and try and use where I can a sort of metabolic angle to use it for health benefits if I get the feeling that's right. I am just getting back into full-blown carnivore after a family bereavement earlier in the year. I kind of fell off a little bit. So I'm just about to have my bloods done to benchmark where I'm at the moment and then get back into it. I've been in the metabolic environment for about 5 years, and hopefully this year, now I've found out there's a qualification I can afford to sit, qualify as a metabolic health practitioner sort of towards the end of the summer.
Perfect, brilliant. And the last and the best for last, obviously, the lovely Lydia.
Thank you, Carl. So I'm Lydia. I've been carnivore probably, I would say, for over 2 years now. My husband and I live on a farm with our 2 kids in Kent, and we are hosting the Kent Metabolic meetup in July, on the 4th of July. And then going on from that, we've been doing, oh, there we go.
Just to sort of say that Zabs, Ibu, Sarah and Lee and Benjamin all on there. So a hell of a lineup.
Yeah. And sorry. Oh, so I've got someone come in, sorry. And then I'm actually going to be a practitioner on the root cause protocol. I'm starting that in February 27, which I'm really excited about, to learn more about minerals, etc. I've had a hair and mineral analysis done, which was fantastic. What come back, everything was quite spot on. Yeah, and I've got a Facebook group mainly focusing on women. There's probably about 1,800 members on there at the moment. So yeah, just sort of trying to absorb a lot and obviously learn from Ben with the Cell City. I've been getting lessons on that, and it's absolutely mind-blowing, fascinating stuff. So yeah, I've got all my notes from there, and I keep, going back round. Yeah, it's been really, really interesting.
And just for anyone that don't know me, I'm the proper dirty carnivore. I go carnivore brilliantly for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I bend the rules, moan at myself for a day or two, and I get back straight on it. So I class myself as a dirty carnivore, but I damn well enjoy it. Right, so that's the introductions over. So just want to get onto some of the subject matter, and obviously we're having Jonathan on. We thought this was quite a pertinent question to have. So it's not purely just about you, Jonathan. I'm not putting you fully on the spot, but you do have a fair level of knowledge. It's about on this particular way of eating, and it doesn't have to be just carnivore. It can be keto and the other bit, but building muscle and improving metabolic health. Do you want to give us a little bit of your viewpoint on that, Jonathan?
If this is someone's objective with a carnivorous, low-carb, animal-based way of eating, first, the most important thing to do is prioritize animal foods, of course. Then also find your protein amount. Typically, my sort of recommendation is to have something like 2.2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo. That's through extrapolation of data from hundreds of carnivore clients that I've worked and coached over the years. And that seems to be what yields the best results in terms of body composition outcomes. And that's always invariably coupled with some kind of resistance training. So that could be a form of calisthenics, band work, light, exercise at home, even doing a wall sit, push-up, something like that. My preference is to use resistance machines over free weights, simply because they work better. They're the evolutionary adaptation of free weights, in my opinion, and they allow people to train safer, more effectively, and with more accuracy and precision in the training. Outside of that, I also prioritize things like circadian health hacks, so blue bottom glasses. I'm using actually my daytime ones. The ones I use are these. I do all that stuff. I live it. I've lived it for 6.5 years. There's not really any biohacks I have not tried at all. You probably think something you haven't tried that. I have. So it's a bit my shameful admittance there. But I found most of it largely ineffective. But what I have found is the main staples of all of what I do is based around recovery, because you can only adapt from what you recover from. So, for example, if you are resistance training and you're training more than 3-4 times a week, assuming you're doing something which might take you an hour, you're probably doing too much. Now, you might get some initial adaptation from doing it. The problem is, what are you going to do when you get to that point where you're doing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours per week? And if we look at the data in terms of cardiovascular health and related to metabolic health, question that was, I guess, asked at the start, you seem to get a cut off about, I'd say something like maybe 90 minutes to maybe 180 minutes per week of actual activity. And that means like proper lifting, intense walking, sprinting. And obviously you're not going to sprint for 4 hours a week or whatever it is, but that's where the cut seems to be. I've been following kind of a lifestyle for 6.5 years, and I believe anyone can reach their genetic potential, their natural limitations with a carnivore diet. And I think they'll also do it in a lot more sustainable fashion because you have less toxins in your body, less nutrients, all the nutrients that your body would require on an animal-based diet. And outside of that, I mean, there's some supplements that may be helpful. Generally speaking, you're looking at things which enhance recovery. Now, if I held a gun to someone's head and say, train as hard as you can, lift the weight into kind of thing, most people could do that. And if I say to someone, make sure every night this week you go to bed at this sort of time, you don't look at screens for 2-3 hours before you go to bed, all this sort of stuff, they probably won't do it. And that's the bottleneck of building a fit and healthy body. What I actually prefer to do with a lot of my clients as well, this might be important to note, is that more does not always equal better. So, for example, I used to work with people that, or I have worked with people that were doing an hour of cardio in the morning because they think, oh, it's fasted, I'm going to burn purely fat. You have to look at things from a broader spectrum, meaning look at your recovery from a 24-hour period. It's not just you're in the gym, then you're recovering. It's all the time. Your body is always in a constant state of what's called anabolism or catabolism. Ideally, if you're trying to build an appreciable amount of muscle, you're going to spend more time in an anabolic state. So this might link to the next sort of questions about like fasting, things like that. But for the most part, I think I've kind of covered the mainstay sort of ideas around training. So yeah.
See, because one thing I was interested in, I didn't know, is you have different glasses for different times of the day. Because I've got some of the dark orange that you've got for nighttime. I didn't realize you had them for daylight, because I assumed daylight was good. So is that not the case?
Daylight when you're staring at a screen with a big light in front of you is not a good idea. So I've got a panel that big next to me here and one over here and lights everywhere. So it's not ideal. And obviously the laptop screen, it does have a blue blocking filter with, I believe, RS technology, which reduces flicker, glare. So that's my kind of experience of that. It's been more helpful. I use the yellow tinted ones rather than the orange tinted ones when I'm doing something I need to be mentally aware. Simply with the fact that I'm very light sensitive, being autistic. Everything sensory wise impacts me significantly more than most people. In terms of like my energy capacity during a day, I'm working at roughly 1/3 of the energy capacity that most other people have, simply through having a mental health condition of, I guess you could say, or disorder, diagnosis of autism, and CRPS, which is obviously a pain condition. So for me, I have to be more careful, mindful of things like that. I've actually tried this before, where I've been to the gym, I've ordered the yellow ones, and I'm just too wiped out. And the orange ones, I'm asleep in the gym. So for me, these things have a significant impact towards recovery, which kind of relates to what I've said before. So they work for different purposes. But say I was staring at the screen at midnight, yeah, I'm going to be wearing orange tinted glasses.
Right. Well, that leads me in nicely, because Benjamin will tell you off, because he'll say that your cycle, when it's dark, you should be sleeping, and when it's light, you should be awake. So, Benjamin, do you want to add anything about the muscle side of it and metabolic health?
Yeah, that was fantastic what he said. A lot of stuff, I already knew a lot of those things. Some things I didn't know, but that was definitely a well-rounded description. I'd like to go with our favorite thing, Cell City. And why do I do this? Because it just simplifies it for everybody listening. So Lydia already knows partly what Cell City is. So if we think of the body like a city, just like Jonathan was saying, you got to recover, rest. Recovery is where the city calms down at night and repairs. The city's not blaring lights 24 hours a day. In Las Vegas, it is. In New York, the cities never sleep, they say. But that's not natural. That's not what biology is. So let's go why building muscle is so important in Cell City. So you've heard of all of them heard of the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the engines. And when you have muscle requires more mitochondria or more engines. The heart, the brain, the actual skeletal muscle contains the most mitochondria, the most engines. You have more engines and more power plants, you can power the city better. Fat is has very few mitochondria, very few engines. You can think of it like this: the muscle is the infrastructure in the city that's always building. It's very active. This fat are like storage depots for fuel. They only need a few lights flickering in there to keep the fuel stored. There's not much activity going on in a fat cell like that, so it doesn't need as many engines. So less engines, less metabolic activity. Also, when you create muscle, you build more blood vessels. But if we're in Cell City language, the blood vessels are waterways or roads. The more roads you have, the more waste can be removed, and the more nutrients and cargo can be delivered. You're building out the infrastructure of the city. And lastly, but definitely not least, is the lymph system. The lymph system is like the drainage or sewer or maintenance tunnels in the city. Because imagine if you just had the blood vessels and then you poured all the sewer stuff into the roads or onto the waterways, it'd clog and it'd just be a big mess. So the lymph is what helps to transport waste products, broken proteins, all these things out of the cells and out of the city, basically. And the way you do that is movement. There is no pump for the lymph system. So the way the lymph system moves is through movement. And that's another reason exercise is so important. So you can move all this waste and byproducts out of the system and out of the city. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, indeed. Al, do you want to contribute anything on this?
Yeah, obviously from a health perspective, come at it slightly differently. Probably what I recognise and see a lot is sarcopenia starting to creep in because of the age group of the majority of people I'm dealing with, and trying to educate and provide health literacy, as it's known, to people, to give them choices to sort of go, right, you can start to combat this. A chat about diet, being up in Scotland, as I sort of mentioned last week, telling a bunch of Scots people that porridge isn't necessarily the best way to start the day with that carb hit. Even everyone says, well, the practice nurse says it's slow release. You know, it's a challenge and an issue. So sarcopenia, diet, trying to increase the amount of collagen maybe people are taking in, as well as the wide range of amino acids and all the other good stuff that's in the species appropriate diet of carnivore, or at least ketovore. Supplements, are we coming on to supplements, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to come. That'll be the next part of the subject. So
I'll leave that. But yeah, medication. I mean, the impact of medication can't be underestimated. So people who have gone into type 2 diabetes, the first choice of medication is going to be metformin, and that is mitochondrial toxin. So for all the increase in health and physical activity, that is all negated or minimized by something like metformin. So yeah, it's trying to show people that if they change the diet, they could get off that metformin. Is a challenge, but you know, we keep chipping away.
No, brilliant.
Can I say something really quick there on Carl?
Yeah.
Just really quick note, and this is just relates back to what Jonathan and Al both said. You know, 100,000 years ago, we didn't have any of this stuff. So obviously, whoever created us or whatever, created, it provide all the stuff for us: the food, the nutrients, the proteins, the fats, all these things, the light. Jonathan, was wearing the glasses. And just think about it. This isn't hard to understand for people, because it's just what we've been doing for 100,000 million years. We didn't have doctors a million years ago, and we're still here today as a species. So maybe the body and the city can do what it needs to do when you get out of its way. Sorry about that, lady. I thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
How have you found things, Lydia?
Pardon, sorry, Carl?
How have you found in terms of muscle development and that? Because you're quite an active young lady.
Yeah, I am, but it's just mostly running around after everyone else. But I will say that I think the light thing is so important. Now, I will go out in the morning, I'll get up, and first thing I'll do is open the patio doors, and I'll go and stand in the sunlight, and then I will get stuff together, and then I'll go on a walk for about 30 minutes. And just that morning light, I think, is so important. It does something to you. I think it just makes you feel so alive. And then I do my normal routine, drop the kids off, and then I do another 30-minute walk. So I probably do 12 to 15,000 steps a day, and I will try and make sure I've done over 12,000. And I think movement and gaining muscle, especially when you're a woman, and as the older you get, so you don't waste your muscles, because I think that's it, isn't it? Once you go into hospital, you don't kind of come out in your later years. So I think it is so important to build muscle, however you do it. I think, you know, you've got to just keep moving, haven't you? I think it's so important.
Absolutely.
Yes, because it was interesting for me, because in my youth and early 20s, I did judo at quite a senior level, and I played rugby at a decent level as well. So I obviously have core muscle, but obviously before I discovered carnivore, when I was nearly 22 stone, it was more like sumo than judo. That I was surprised that once I went on the carnivore diet, and other than having my bulldog, who often gate crashes these shows, for walking, I've done zero exercise in the last 3 years, and I've surprisingly found myself toning up. And so I'm assuming that's diet led, and obviously, like Lydia says, I do between 10 and 12,000 steps because of the dog more than anything. But I do find that I have toned up without actually doing exercise. So that's part of the reason I want to ask the question, because I'm only eating better, but I do seem to be toning up. I don't know why, how that works, but that's just my observation. So just a quick little cue. We've got George is in the audience. I've asked George to come on next week as well to talk a little bit about the Healing Humanity film, because they're in the process of trying to get that approved in the UK. And George is also my co-criminal in terms of doing some of these meetups. So George will be joining us next week. And we've also got, who is it, Lydia?
Spencer Martin, who is to do with glucose evolution. So he devised continued glucose monitor that I wear.
And then the following week, we, all being well, have the fantastic Dr. Kiltz coming on, and potentially Dr. Abs, who said he's going to try and come for that one as well. So we've got a fantastic lineup in these Metabolic Mondays. I keep wanting to say Manic Monday. Start singing like the Bangles in a minute. Right, sorry. We'll get back to on course now. So going into the secondary part of the conversation is about supplements, because I found when I first went on carnivore, I needed electrolytes because I kept getting cramps. But I just think it was my imbalance of salts and magnesium and potassium. But after, and I think bone broth helped, after about 6-7 months, I've not had electrolytes since. But so I'm interested in what the views are in terms of electrolytes. Is like Keto Pro does some fantastic versions, which I hope we'll get Richard on as well before we get wrap up on these. But I'll be interested to get your points of views about supplements. And so again, should we go back to you, Jonathan?
Yeah, sure. So if I'm honest, this flies in the face of everyone I've seen, but it's just the reality. Most carnivores do use supplements. Most of them. I'd say probably about 80% of them, if I was to put an estimate. Usually those sort of things can come from magnesium, electrolytes, potassium in like flavor sachets and things like that. What people find is you have something called antidiuretic hormone. Now these things will upregulate and downregulate according to what your body's trying to do at the time. The thing is with a carnivorous diet or an animal meat-based diet is these foods contain a lot of something called taurine in it. And that is a sulfonic acid, or I guess you could say an amino acid. And it's the only one which will actually work as, I guess you could say, almost like a building block in a heart, like an antioxidant. Now, your heart is something your body's always trying to maintain. No heart, no life. I mean, it's the same for any organ system, I guess, but it's something you simply cannot live without because you need to supply fresh oxygen to your body. So when your diet contains more taurine through animal foods, your electrolyte balance will become more regulated. And it's not necessarily something which will happen overnight, although that bodily system is carefully managed internally, just innately, just by being alive. There's also always a state where people have to transition. So what people notice if they're over fat when they start a carnivore diet, they'll find that they lose a lot of body fat at the start if they're eating the right amount to get to their naturally healthy body composition state. So what they'll do in that position is actually release a lot of toxins. When your body releases toxins, it also releases a certain amount of water. So fat on itself is fat. Adipose tissue, which is stored body fat in the form of saturated fat, will actually release some water as well. So your hydration state will have to create some sort of equilibrium. Now, there's no sort of absolute time frame or guideline of how long this can take. For me, I started a carnivorous diet February the 2nd, 2020, so about 6.5 years ago. I was adapted back to my normal training state, hydration state, within about 1 to 2 weeks, but that's an unusual case. But I kind of I would state the fact that I was in good shape when I started the carnivore diet already. I was already in a position where I was eating lots of animal foods, so I didn't get that quite leverage that Carl might have had, where he might have, say his average dinner was, I don't know, pie and chips, whatever. Now it's beef and eggs. Okay, he's increased the amount of taurine in his body. There's more potassium in his body, less glucose, therefore less circulating insulin. Therefore, his kidneys do not have to extract or release more water from his body. His body's more of an equilibrium kind of state, I guess you could say. So that would explain why someone in one position might need electrolytes and another person might not. The other thing, which I think Al actually touched on earlier regarding medications, particularly things like metformin, which is a medication, the drug form, or a herbal supplement like berberine. So both these things, basically, in terms of medical, biochemical, and biological states that they change, they only change one thing. They're glucose disposal agents. That's one thing they do. But they also act as an irritant to the gut lining and reduce the absorption of minerals and vitamins that your body would otherwise take in. So when someone starts carnivore diet, oftentimes they're 50, 60, 70 years old, perhaps, dysregulated health patterns, pre-diabetic, diabetic, hypertension, all the sort of cofactors, I guess you could say, comorbidities in regards to your poor metabolic health state. So what they'll find eventually is that when it gets to their set point where they're meant to be naturally healthy, they don't need to add these things back in. So that kind of explains why. Now, some people also go from a diet which might be, they might have an aversion to too much protein. They might have an aversion to too much fat. When there's not enough of each, your body starts to do weird stuff. So I compete in bodybuilding. I know my protein has to be very high for the output that I put in the gym compared to a lot of other people. But I've also noticed now, as my fat reduces, I'm now producing less what's called metabolic or easy water, and I'm not creating what's called a deuterium depleted water. So as I get leaner, my body has less fat and stored adipose tissue. Therefore, I'm releasing all the toxins. My first level goes up. My need for electrolytes or salt will also go up. So in the off season, when I'm at my heaviest or fattest, I'll be consuming less additional electrolytes through keto pro electrolytes. But as I get leaner, I'll actually be taking in more because my insulin level is running at a lower level. Therefore, I have to actually take in more to store more effectively. So that's kind of my thought process towards electrolyte supplementation. But what do you think, Benjamin?
I couldn't say the science better myself there, but for me, I like to make things simple for people. And I write in my book, supplements. The body only needs 3 things on a constant, continual basis. Now, you need protein and fats, obviously, but on a continual, constant basis, I don't know, Lydia might remember this in the book. You might remember this in the book too, Carl. What did I say in the book? The body needs on 3 things. You remember?
No, sorry. I'm multitasking. Sorry, what was the question?
Do you remember, Lydia? What does the body need on a continual, constant basis? What are the 3 things it needs?
Minerals.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah. No, minerals, water, and salt.
Oh, yeah. Salt.
No, that's all it needs. And so, what Jonathan is saying, so always try to manage this stuff. And so what happens is in processed food or when the body's under stress, the city, it's getting the salt from the processed food, and that's it. So it's missing the water and the minerals. And if it's missing those, it's constantly craving food, looking for that because it needs those three things. And all processed food has is that. And so back to the minerals and supplements. When you take supplements, most of them are synthetic. And synthetic supplements are made in factories with petroleum and toxic byproducts. Personally, I don't want to be, taking in absorbic acid and anything that ends in an ick or something. Acid, I think pantothenic acid is vitamin B1 or 2 or one of those vitamins, but that's all synthetic. And your body, the city doesn't recognize that. And so supplements, when you eat food from the farmer's market or Lydia has the farm, you eat your the cow or the eggs, that's all you need. It's got all the minerals in it because the cow eats the grass and it's a recycling and a fermenting machine that turns all that into minerals, vitamins, amino acids, everything you need.
Well, when they talk about superfoods, I think the egg is the actual superfood.
The egg is probably the best food on the planet. And so supplements, I don't take them. I think if you and here's the other issue, is that over here in America, a lot of our soil has been depleted, as I write in the book. And so if the soil's depleted, then there's not as many minerals in it. The plants can't access. So the plants are basically have NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, but all the trace minerals are in very short supply. And so you really want to go to the local farmer's market, but talk to your farmer, know your rancher. And also when you get minerals in food, it comes as a complex with other cofactors. There's enzymes with it. The food's alive. So all these things that I think people might miss, they go, oh, I take a calcium supplement or magnesium supplement, but it's kind of an isolation. And if we go back to our city analogy, that things don't work in isolation in Cell City. It all works together as one big system.
Yeah.
And when you just drop isolate inputs in there, the city's like, okay, what do we do with this? But when it comes to the cofactors, it's like workers coming with it. They all know what to do. I mean, I know the city analogy just really covers pretty much everything when you start to understand it.
It's a very simple way to put it. So just to bring some of the others in. Al, have you got anything about something? You were going to talk about supplements earlier.
Yeah, for me, living this far north with the amount of sunshine we don't get because Benjamin has it all. Vitamin D during the coronavirus. People were metabolically unhealthy, and there was a few papers published where sort of heavy dosing vitamin D was found to kind of flick a switch and take people out of the potential of having long COVID and just suffer that initial sort of COVID. So most people, vitamin D is fat soluble. So as people, with the more obese society, that vitamin D sequestered away and not necessarily the same as it would be in somebody who's metabolically healthy. And that's been repeated over and over again, that a lot of the problems during COVID were as a result of metabolic ill health and poor vitamin D. I think to the extent, and this is just my interpretation, that trying to get a vitamin D on a blood test these days is quite difficult because they spent that much money. You need to have a specific reason for doing vitamin D testing in normal NHS practice if it's linked to somebody. But they do say most medications won't work unless somebody is replete with vitamin D. So if vitamin D levels are down, medications don't work, which is an interesting starting point when you look at the health of people that end up in our acute hospitals. The other one for me, really, I agree with the electrolytes. Phase it, have it at the beginning, phase it out when it feels good. And if you, like I've sort of fallen off and coming back to it, I'll be back on the electrolytes. But once you start clean carnivore, you can start to listen to your body a lot more and phase them out when it's appropriate. And then the other one for me is iodine. And it goes back to the soil's knackered, which I think Ben mentioned. Most of the food we you know, for the general population is fairly crap and hasn't got that kind of goodness. Elizabeth Bright, for anybody who's seen some of her work, she's very pro iodine supplementation. Ken Berry has waxed lyrical on it too. That we and I see it from a clinical perspective with people with hypothyroid and people taking levothyroxine, and they've had the one blood test. You know, they haven't had a full thyroid screening, and it makes such a difference, I think, to finding out whether it's, you know, one of the other thyroid conditions rather than the classic hypothyroid problem, which a lot of people, once they hit a certain age and the energy levels go down, oh, it's your thyroid. But all they'll do is a TSH from a screening point of view. So electrolytes, you know, temporarily when it's appropriate, and vitamin D, especially for us this far north, and iodine.
Yeah,
Carl,
there's a lot of talk about iodine, isn't there? That you should or shouldn't take it. But I have a lot of fish, and I think that's why my levels are quite good, especially oily fish, which I believe is quite high in there, isn't it?
Carl, can I say something really quick?
Yes, Ben.
Oh, sorry, just want to. There's a person that wants to join the live. She sent me an Instagram just right now, and I don't know where are we at on YouTube so she can see us.
If she wants to go to, if she goes to my channel, The Primal Lifestyle, she should be able to see it there.
Okay, The Primal Lifestyle.
And I think it's linked to everyone's channel here. If she wants to go to Carnival Muscle, it's streaming on that as well.
Okay, I see. Okay, yeah. The Primal Lifestyle. Okay.
The Primal Lifestyle. So,
okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Lydia, would you like to add anything about supplements?
Yeah, I think I really struggled sort of 6 months into maybe a year with just horrific leg cramps. They were really, really bad. And that was obviously an electrolyte issue. But now I just have salt, Redmond salt. I don't really feel the need to add anything back in. But at that time, Christ, it was horrendous. But supplements, I do take magnesium, quite high potency one. And since I've learned more about the RCP framework, I've just, as I said, I had a hair mineral analysis done, and it was quite shocking, a lot of the stuff that I've come back quite low on. So I'm trying to up certain things on there. Obviously my food's just not doing it, so I will supplement that way. And I've just had 21 different types of bloods taken, including vitamin D and B12 levels as well. So I want to see what they all come back as, to move forward with that. But yeah, you should be able to get it from your food, but obviously if you can't, then. But I did do the whole vitamin C flush. That wasn't pleasant. So I've learnt my lesson with salicylic acid, and now I take Ben, you might be able to help me. The name of it, it's a cherry. It's a powdered cherry form. Is it Azola or something like that?
Acerola.
That's it. So I take that one at the moment. But yeah, just trying to get all my levels right and crack on really to be optimal.
See, I found that I have organ meat of some sort, mainly liver, but sometimes kidney once a week. I'm probably having fish a couple of times. A lot of mackerel, a lot of I do sardines occasionally as well. And I find my iodine and all that side of it levels from when I've checked has all been pretty good. So I do think it's if you just go meat, eggs, like the old BBBE, I think you do miss out on stuff and you need support with. Where I think if you have a more rounded diet, I find it works better for me. So I'm just going to, before we get to the next subject, I'm just going to go to a couple of the comments because there's been quite a few comments come in and I wanted to do it. So this is Uncle Charlie, which I think is from your side, Jonathan. He was saying that he stopped losing weight when he cut out butter. So I'm trying to read over my own camera. I stopped losing weight when I cut the butter out. Now the weight is falling off again, and the only fat I get is from bacon, and I fry the eggs in the bacon oil. I get what he said because he did correct it afterwards. And then he's come up with a question for you, Jonathan. Can you get abs without doing stomach exercises? Do you want to answer that one, Jonathan?
Strictly speaking, smooth muscle tissue such as the stomach. The stomach is a smooth muscle, so you can't actually actively train it. But he's obviously talking about the abdomen. But yeah, you can activate the abdomen with various exercises like ab planks, reverse planks, dragon flags. You don't necessarily have to train to get abs. My spine is destroyed. I struggle to do most ab exercises. What I can do though is ab vacuums. So like you like a tummy hold sort of thing. You're trying to bring your stomach in. Other than that, I can do like some static contraction kind of stuff. But obviously, if you have too much fat on your body, you're not going to see your abs. It's not going to happen. So it can help you to brace and show more muscle tissue. But what you got to think is the rectus abdominis, which is that 6 or 8 pack formation that you see on ripped lean people in magazines. That muscle tissue is very, very thin. So it doesn't have a high potential for hypertrophy. You can improve it, the development of it, the strength of it, but you're not going to go from having abs like that to having abs like that, realistically. So it would certainly help, but I'll be focusing my efforts, if I was to put one thing, mostly on the diet. And he said about the dropping fat. That alludes to the mass balance model, which was basically meta-analysis of data from various data points in scientific research, looking at different diets and how they impact body composition. And that was I'll probably put after this. I'll put the publication below, but it's by Francisco Albaita, and he looked at different means or measurements to identify how to lose body fat. And reducing mass of food is the primary way to lose body fat, and that's irrespective of the carbohydrate insulin model, calorie amount. We don't count calories in food, obviously, but it comes down to mass of food. If you have that much fat mass and that much protein mass, generally speaking, if you compartmentalize it, you need enough protein to maintain or build muscle tissue. If you reduce fat over time, your body fat will reduce. The people that said haven't tried it. They don't track their macros, so they don't know what does or doesn't work. It doesn't work. So yeah, there is a hormonal element to it, but I've hypothesized, along with Bart K, it's about 15 to 20%. So if you're looking to lose body fat, you can do it on almost any diet. But the main point is, whatever your maintenance amount of food is, you have to reduce the amount of food that you take in. But yeah. That's my point.
Yeah, but you bodybuilders love your 6-packs. I'm sticking with my 9-pack. I love my 9-pack.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
Carl?
please do.
Yeah.
Yes, Ben.
So, yeah, that's absolutely correct. The abs are made in the kitchen. The other thing that I'd like to add is that stress, and because Jonathan was talking about body fat, stress is a major contributor. So whatever causes chronic stress is going to cause cortisol to rise, going to cause inflammation to rise, and then that's going to create a state where the body is like, okay, we need to store fuel. And if you want to go back to the city analogy, that when the body's either feels safe or it feels unsafe, and the city either feels safe or it feels unsafe. When it feels unsafe, it stores resources or fuel. I mean, the engineering behind it, if you just think about all these things, is just incredible to me. And so, just what Jonathan was saying, so the stress causes you to gain weight or gain fat. So anything that causes stress, the artificial light at night could technically cause you to gain weight because it's causing stress. The phones, eating too much sugar, being dehydrated, not enough exercise, all these things. But it just kind of, it all comes together, Carl. So it's all the same thing. So it all connects. Grounding, not connecting to nature. How can not connecting to nature cause you to gain weight? Because you're not, restoring the cells and helping to revitalize the city, which has caused more stress. It just, when people understand it's all connected, I think it just makes a lot more sense.
See, for me, I think the 6-pack, don't take this the wrong way, Jonathan, you do body shaping and bodybuilding and all that, but the 6-pack is a false economy in terms of the human life, because me being on the primal lifestyle, you need a level of fat for when you go hungry. Your body needs that, where the body shape, super muscles and all that sort of thing is about design, it's about image and all that, where I don't think it's the ultimate body shape, even no disrespect to bodybuilders, etc. But in theory, if we were out in the wild, we would need a level of fat, and that's why I'm proud of my 9-pack. We've got another.
Yeah,
we've
just
got
to
another.
reiterate, yeah, just
Go
to
on.
reiterate that point, what I'm doing when I speak about these things is mostly to do with bodybuilding. So my idea of a healthy human being is not to look like me. The more muscle you have, I believe Benjamin made a point earlier about the mitochondria. Your body has a finite amount of mitochondria it can create. If you overtax the systems of your body which are not naturally significantly important, by having 20-inch arms, that's taking away energy from your heart, kidney, and brain, as you mentioned. So we eventually have a thing called mitochondrial overspin, which means the complex systems will spin. The ATPase within the electron transport chain with the mitochondrial spin at a rate of 9,000. If they go beyond that, you then create oxidative stress. Then that's how you see people that are in the cardio machines doing 10 hours a week, grey eyes, tired, shattered.
Yeah.
They might have abs, but they don't feel good. So there's a difference between feeling good and looking good. But there's some overlap because you have to do a bit of each to sort of achieve what you want. But yeah, don't do bodybuilding, guys.
Yeah. I wasn't a dig. It's just that in my process, that's how I see it. So we've got another question here. Do we need to take MCT or dietary fats to increase ketosis? So I would hope that Lydia's got some sort of knowledge in this, being our ketosis queen of monitoring, or if Al's got anything to say, either of you two.
Al, you can go first.
Oh, good body swerve.
So ketosis, when people initially start the ketones, if people are recording them, will appear higher because the body hasn't adapted to using the ketones. That will over time start to drop and almost go down to like a maintenance level, and people get into a panic then about, oh, my ketones have dropped, and actually it's not. It's just the body's become much more efficient at using ketones as a fuel source. I class MCT as a hack. It's not required, but some people use it and can use it to good effect. Dietary fats, I don't see them as necessarily increasing, but if you are not consuming enough fat, then you won't produce the you won't get the ketosis, because that's the fuel used to get ketones produced. So there's obviously an optimal level of fat, and it's different in everybody. Various calculations. Like Jonathan, I'll go off what Bart K says with regards to protein and fat consumption. But yeah, MCT is a hack. Dietary fats essential. Butter was mentioned before. That's obviously dairy, so that is for some people a positive and some it's not.
Lydia, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's good. I think a lot of people do sort of 3-to-1, don't they? Fat to protein ratio when they want to get into ketosis. But then is it actually the fat on your body, or is it the fat that you're consuming? And that's obviously, I deal with a lot of women, and it is just weight loss is the ultimate goal. So of course, if you're upping your fat all the time, it's only burning the fat that you're eating. It's not the fat on your body. So I think, there's a certain ratio. Obviously, Jonathan spoke about ratios earlier, but I think with women, especially because of the Elizabeth Bright, I think we need the fat for our hormones. I do 100% agree with that. I think when you reduce it down so much and you're just, you want to build muscle, so you're having protein, but you can then overdo the protein and not enough fat. And I've been in that situation. I think I spent about 6 months there, and it didn't feel good. I did lose weight, but in the ultimate thing, I was knackered. I felt horrendous. And it wasn't till I increased the fat back up that it was fine. But in regards, sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but in regards to the question, I think it's a hack. I think to have MCT, I don't use it.
Right.
There's enough on the
fatty. It's quite interesting because George and I have a very similar story. I was slightly heavier than him, but I'm taller than him anyhow. But I found that when I was doing my accelerated weight loss, the more fat I consumed, the more fat I seemed to lose, which I could never get in my head. But I think it's because it was pushing me into ketosis, and therefore I was burning off all the fats around my organs and all that. It was weird because I first went on it to lose weight, but within 6 months to 9 months, the weight loss was secondary. It was the health benefits, the inflammation loss, my blood pressure going down, me no longer needed to go on insulin, me no longer needing statins. That was the real surprise for me, and the weight side of it. And that's why I'm a bit of a dirty carnivore, because if I want to have a bit of fun, I'll have a bit of fun for a day or so, because I now got into that awful state that, yep, I can go on a fast, or I can cut down and go hardcore lion or whatever, and I shift it off within days, which is not really a healthy way of doing it, but it's me. So while I mentioned that point, I'm going to quickly push this on because I'm conscious of time, is going on to, I just mentioned the word fasting, very seamless link there. So I'd like to get your points of view regarding fasting and if it's good or bad for metabolic health. So I'm going to start with Al this time, if you don't mind. Al, would you like to give us your views of fasting?
Fasting is a natural state. You know, we look at how we've evolved over the millennia, and it's how we should be. So, you know, not staying in ketosis, drifting in and out of ketosis, as well as fasting. I'm kind of a little bit on side, but I need to study more about the difference between men and women and fasting. But ultimately, if you go back, and again, it's kind of listening to Bart Kay's methodology on this, that we wouldn't have separated out and had all this kind of, well, women have got different systems. They would have eaten similar times, depending on tribal hierarchies and all those sort of cultural things that have gone on in the past. But fasting, yes, it's a useful tool. Obviously, it's a massive subject. You know, we could start to talk about dry fasting and whether you should do that, and do you need to prepare before you go into a fast, as some of the influencers will get people to do. But yeah, 16 hours as a standard kind of thing. I don't see it's a negative, only a positive.
Okay. Lydia, you've done a bit of fasting on and off, and you've struggled a bit with it, haven't you?
Yeah, I personally think women shouldn't fast for over 48 hours because of their hormone health. I think men can. I think men can do 72 hours plus. I think men find it a little bit easier. But I have done the sardine fasting, the egg fasting, because I'm not very good on actual fasting. I can probably do 24 hours, and then I just like my food. But I've been in GKIs of 1 and 2s with, which is sort of deep therapeutic ketosis. I've been in them with just eating eggs for 3 days, and you know, to be full. So I think, you know, you can get good results without fasting. I think it depends on what you're actually fasting for. If it's for illnesses, cancer, etc. I think obviously you do what you need to do, but I think for me, for women, you shouldn't do more than 48 hours.
See, I naturally fast without thinking about it, a bit like what Al said, because there are some days where I'll eat a lot of meat and a lot of fat, and it's quite often the next day I've got no hunger at all. So is that fasting, or is that just my body saying I don't need anything? I don't know. But I do find I go through series, and then I will not binge, but then I'll have a large portion of meat again a day or so later. I did go with Dawn from the Carnivore. We did a 4-day fast together, and I found that surprisingly easy. But as you say, she struggled, and I found it easy. And I just wonder if it is that male-female bit. So be interested in your point of view, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think the guys are right. I mean, like you said, Carl, it's a tool. I think Al's the same. Men can tolerate a bit longer than women. I can't tolerate any. I'm like 5% body fat. I fast for a day. I'm sick. I'm ill. My nervous system is completely dysregulated. I'm anxious. We've all got different genetic polymorphisms. Good hunters probably wouldn't have fasted. Bad hunters, they probably would have had to subside on something else, you know? So you have to look back at your ancestral heritage, because certain genetic markers will certainly play a bit of a role there. It is a ridiculously massive topic. All I can say is the vast majority of successful carnivores that I know don't try too fast. They do what you do, Carl. So they might, I'm hungry for 1 meal today. I'm going to eat until full, leave it. I'm hungry the next day, maybe 6 hours after you ate the day before. Maybe be hungry then. Most people I find have the best success are eating about 2 to maybe 3 meals per day. Women tend to have 2.5, 3. Men can do better on 2, I find. Also, I mean, the meal frequency is dependent on how much body fat you have, what you're trying to achieve, and the mass of you. For example, Eddie Hall did a dirty carnivore diet, I guess you'd say. He's eating 6 meals a day. You're not going to maintain 150 kilos of your muscle and train twice a day, 3 times a day, eating 1 meal a day. It will not happen. I eat 4 meals per day. I struggle to get down my 4 meals per day whilst in a fat loss contest preparation phase. So the idea of me doing fasting is impossible at this point. Someone else, maybe they can do it if they're a bit less active. I think that, I mean, the thing is, what people do is they watch these influencers online, and they find a video, and they want the next thing. But the next thing isn't a hack. It's not a trick. It's what does everyone do generally that ends up successful in their body composition, health status after year 2, 3, 4, 5 of doing carnivore. Most of them aren't doing fasting. Like I said, it's a useful tool. So you have to sort of paint the picture of what has been useful, what hasn't been useful, and also set objectives. So, for example, my objective, if I was fasting, would be I need to lose 2 pounds of fat a week because I'm behind on whatever. Okay, I know, for example, 2 pounds of fat might be 2 days of not eating. So maybe I'll do 2 days back to back. But say if I was to train 5 times per week, maybe I want a bit more food on those other days, sort of thing. So I might eat less on those days and more on those days. But it's a ridiculous topic. I couldn't even begin to, I mean, the amount of videos I've done on fasting is insane. Are you looking at, if you to put it all in an ebook, about 600 pages worth of writing. So it's, but yeah, I'll leave it to you, Ben. You might have a more accurate response there.
Thanks, Sean. No, once again, I always just go back to the simplistics for the layman to understand. As like, like you said, Jonathan, or I think someone said, we didn't have food all the time. Our ancestors, the good hunters maybe got food more than the bad hunters, but in general, we all got food when we got food. There was no fast food. There was no convenience stores. We're not designed to eat all the time, period. And what happens when you eat all the time, you're just shoving, food in your body. Or once again, we always go back to my cell city because it just kind of helps make things really understandable. Imagine shoving cargo into the city 24 hours a day, and then the city has to, dismantle it, look at it, import it, see what's going on and transport it. It gets overwhelmed. And so if you look back to the body, your digestive system is not meant to run 24 hours a day. And people are eating, protein bars and this and that. John said he's 4 meals a day. Some people eat like 8 meals a day. And when you consider that because they're eating a protein bar here or there, that's considered a meal. So some people probably eat 16 times a day. And I don't think that is healthy at all. And so I think, fasting, what fasting is it's a way for the body to repair itself. So if you're sick, you have a chronic disease, I think probably fasting, a water fast or a dry fast. I'm not big on dry fasting. I think water is so important. That I write about in the book, as Lydia and Carl know. A water fast for 4 days, 5 days a week, maybe that could help cure your cancer. I don't know, or your diet, whatever it is. So if you have a chronic disease, fasting, I think is really good. Personally, I can only fast, like Jonathan said, for maybe 12 hours, maybe a full day. I don't need to. I don't care to. I like to, eat when I'm hungry. And being on the mostly carnivore diet, I eat like when I'm done with this live stream, I'll go eat some meat, and then I'll go with my day, keep going. But my point is everyone's different. Everyone's got their own, metabolism, their own genetics, and whatever works for you, do it. And just listen to your body or your city, whatever it's telling you. I think that's the best strategy.
So there's a question here for you, Lydia. It says, organic eggs, ? How many a day were you eating during your fast? Did you add any butter and salt?
Yeah, I did 12 eggs on day 1. I did 8 eggs on day 2, and that's because I got a histamine reaction to the eggs. And then on day 3, I did 12 eggs. But yeah, I added butter, sort of a tablespoon, depending on what I was doing, and definitely added salt. But yeah, I was having ketones up to 3. which I'm not someone who has high ketones, so that was quite amazing. And yeah, my GKIs were in the 1s and the 2s, so yeah, it was really beneficial to me because you're having the correct, like you said, Cole, it's such a superfood with the correct amount of protein and fat, so I wasn't feeling like I was starving or going without. I felt full, and I was doing I think 2 meals on the second day, but day 1 and day 3 I was eating 3 times. So, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I always say eggs are the powerhouse of any diet, but you know, I was always told have too many eggs, you bind yourself up, but it's never worked on me. So you know, but right, we've got here someone saying I'm a huge fan of OMAD, but when I was carnivore with pre-diabetes due to undiagnosed hormonal condition, my OMAD carnivore got me out of the state of insulin resistance. So obviously, very positive result on that front. Right, so we've been going a good hour now. So is there anyone got any last minute questions, or then we'll start to wrap up? So one area there's been a little bit of debate. I've noticed anything talking about salt, and I tend to use pink Himalayan salt mainly because my wife loves TK Maxx and it's dirt cheap in there. But some people talk about sea salt, some talk about Redmond's, is it salt, wherever it is. Is there any particular salts that you guys stick with in terms of with your food?
Celtic for me.
Well, that's easy for you. It's on your doorstep.
Coles to Newcastle, mate.
Indeed. Because obviously they talk about sea salt. They're saying about microplastics and all that now. And then the argument about pink Himalayan salt is that you get residue of dynamite. Well, it's never blown me up yet. So well, I'm starting to do my comedy routine now, aren't I? Lydia, what do you use salt-wise?
And a lot of that is because we make our own biltong, and because it's so fine, it sticks to it. But yeah, Redmond's is my favourite.
Right, and you can get that easily in the UK, Ken, because I've never seen it.
Amazon.
Oh, that supermarket. Yeah, the Amazon in the cloud.
Yeah.
Benjamin, what sort of salts do you use?
I use a Redmond's. I like Redmond's, but I also use something called bamboo salt. I learned about bamboo salt like about 5 years ago or so. I guess they take bamboo stalks, they put sea salt in it, and then the salt absorbs some of the stuff from the bamboo stalks. I think they like sit there for like 5 years. I'm not sure the exact science behind it, but I've heard a lot of good things about bamboo salt, and so I use that, and then Redmond's. And what I don't use is iodized salt with the refined salt. That's no bueno. But all the other salts, whether there's microplastics in it or not, or it's got residues of dynamite in it, I'm okay with that. I just don't want iodized salt.
Yeah, so it's interesting because George mentions that he never touches table salt.
Yeah,
and I'm going to find out why George has got a dress of purple coconut 65. I'm sure there's a story on that one. I don't know that one. Sorry,
before
Jonathan. Or probably after 9
table
o'clock.
Salt it's just sodium. Yeah. So the idea of getting salt is like you're on a blend of minerals, and it's never going to be exactly imperfect. That's why your body has a system to auto-regulate what it does. It doesn't come in this system in the cell. In terms of my salts, I use Malden sea salts, Celtic sea salts, and my favorite is Bardrake Gold sea salt. Now I've looked into this very extensively because I get asked a lot about salt, and what you'll find online is everyone has one of these graphics which says this is the amount of electrolytes, this is the amount of plastics, this is the amount of cyanide, whatever. And I think you'll never be able to catch up with it. I'm drinking from a plastic bottle here. There's things in our environment which we just can't escape. I think the air quality we take in is more important than microplastics, in my opinion. And microplastics can be reduced by things like heat exposure, sauna, things like that as well. But if the air we breathe is the air we breathe, it comes into our system all the time. So my room is always air conditioned, dehumidified to the best of what I can achieve. So there's bigger levers to pull, but I am. If I was to say I wouldn't have something, it'd be table salt. That'd be something I personally avoid. So I actually do carry around salt sachets or bags that I put my own stuff into. So yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the microplastics, I actually taught my kids that if you have too many microplastics, you poo out a Kinder Egg toy. So that put them off Kinder Eggs for years because they're so bloody expensive. So but that's just my sick, sad individualness. So sorry, I heard Paul Saladino goes on about diamond crystal salt. Well, I've never heard of bamboo salt, so that's something I'm going to look into. And I've never heard of diamond crystal soap. But I don't want to mention diamonds near my wife; her eyes will light up. Right, people. I think we've had a fantastic, good hour here. Some brilliant content. People watching, please please share because it helps the algorithm gets this out. We've got a fantastic lineup next week. We're going to be doing every Monday night where we can. Thank you, everyone, and good night. And he presses the end.